Hi and welcome to this new series. This is the first episode of a series about Scrum. If you don't know me, hi, my name is Anto and this is Out of DevOps, a YouTube channel for software engineers. In this course I'm going to explain Scrum from a software engineer point of view. Many times during my career as software engineer and then as a tech lead, I ended up becoming the accidental Scrum Master for the team. So a little disclaimer here, I'm not a certified Scrum Master, so this course will be a Scrum course from a non-certified Scrum Master. Today I will describe what problems Scrum attempts to solve and how it does it, trying to explain the principles behind Scrum. And then in the next episode I will describe all the Scrum ceremonies one by one. For example, what's the daily Scrum, how it works, what are the reasons why we do daily Scrum, same about retrospective, same about backlog grooming, backlog refinement, or the sprint review and so on and so forth. So let's start now talking about why we need Scrum in the first place. So I want to start giving you an example about other disciplines. For example, in constructions, architects and engineers have very defined rules and very defined best practices that they can follow, simply because the process has been refined during the years and they know exactly what to expect. This is true for a number of disciplines in different fields, but there are also other fields that are not well defined yet, for example science or software engineering, where we cannot predict easily what is going to happen in advance in a project. So we are trying to define methodologies that we can adopt in order to simplify the project management in these specific fields. And during the years in software engineering there were a number of attempts. So we started with the waterfall methodology, and then we moved to the RUP. I don't know if you remember that, the rational unified process. And then after that we had the agile movement with the extreme programming, and then Kanban and Scrum, etc. So all these try to solve this problem, but some of them succeeded, some of them failed miserably. But the reality of facts is that we are still in the Stone Age with regards to managing software projects, and we are still trying to figure out. So, and this is exactly what Scrum does. Scrum starts from this assumption that trying to predict too far in the future is proven to be a waste of time, because things tend to shift or not be what we expect. So and that's where it puts the focus. So Scrum doesn't try to define everything up front, but it defines everything as part of leader cycles that are called sprints, and that we're going to see in a second. And every single sprint has a number of activities, also known as ceremonies, that try to provide a feedback for the next cycle. So essentially Scrum is not a methodology, but is more a framework. And as any framework, we can pick and choose and modify pieces and components of the framework in order to make it fit for our company and for our team. So for me, what's really important is understanding what are the principles behind Scrum. For me, there are three main things. The first one is building teams that are self-organizing. That means we are trying to decentralize the management of the project and give more responsibilities to the team, and consequently give more autonomy. Two is improve collaboration. Collaboration is not internal to the team only, but is also with external stakeholders. That's very important because provides a bigger picture to the team, so they can also have constant feedback from external stakeholders. And three is the concept of continuous improvement. So Scrum is based on these cycles, and at the end of every cycle we have a phase where we gather all the feedback and we try to improve upon them. So now, with the help of this infographic, let me try to explain the different phases of Scrum that we're gonna see in the next videos. So as you can see here, the main thing is the sprint. Generally we have sprints that span from 1 week to a maximum of 4 weeks, and we run a sprint after another. So at the end of one sprint, there is immediately after, the day after, the next sprint will start. But what is the sprint? The sprint is the cycle, as we said, in which we try to split some aspects of our project. So we have something called sprint goal, which is what we want to achieve in that time box period. That can be, as I said, from 1 to 4 weeks. Let's say it's 2 weeks. And in these 2 weeks, we have a number of activities, right? So we define upfront what we want to put in the sprint. So we pull all the tasks that we want to run from a backlog, and then we start executing on them, right? So one after the other, we execute the tasks. Then what we have is a daily activity, which is called the daily scrum. It happens generally every day at the same time, and this is about providing feedback to the rest of the team about the task we are working on. It's mainly designed for developers. It should not be considered a status update, but more a way to provide feedback and try to increase internal collaboration inside the team. Then during the sprint we have other activities where we do the backlog refinement. So the backlog refinement is going through the stories for the next few sprints. So we try to plan and refine stories not too much in advance. So we try to tackle stories that are in the next couple of sprints. So we can have a backlog with a number of stories that are ready to be picked for next iteration. Generally this activity happens in another meeting, which is called sprint planning. The sprint planning happens at the beginning of the new sprint, and when the backlog refinement is done properly, it doesn't take very long. It's just a matter of defining the number of tickets that the team can commit on, and they can pull them in the current sprint and start working on them. There are other two activities that are important in Scrum. One of them is the sprint review, where we have the review of what we have achieved and if we have missed or hit our goal. And in this meeting generally you have a wider number of people. You can have other teams that may be interested on your work, but also stakeholders from the business point of view. They can participate and see the progress. So this is a useful feedback for the company, but most of the time this meeting is overlooked and sometimes doesn't take place, and there are a number of complications in this, but we are going to talk about them in a dedicated episode. And in the end, for me, this is the most important meeting, which is the sprint retrospective. The sprint retrospective is a moment for the team to reflect on what happened during the sprint, what went well and what didn't go as planned. And it's very important because in this meeting is the time where people can speak up, where people can provide the feedback and can really try to improve the process for next iterations. So the goal of the retrospective is essentially to find the most burning problem of the team and trying to work on it in the next iteration and try to eliminate that problem. So this is it for this episode. In the next episode we're going to talk about the different actors that we have in Scrum, and we're going to start talking about the daily Scrum, what it is and how we can run an effective daily Scrum. Hope you like this series. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Don't forget to subscribe and see you soon. Bye bye.